you want to learn how to knit, but you haven't got a clue where to start? Then this is the video for you. I'm going to break down exactly what tools you'll need and hopefully provide you with a strategy to learning that means this will be a hobby that you'll want to stick with. My name's Louisa, and on this channel we discuss all things knitting and crochet. If that sounds like your cup of tea, then please go and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. For more regular knitting content, then please go and check out my Instagram page at loopypasta. I would love to see you over there. Now that we've covered all of that, let's get stuck into the video. The first thing that you're going to need is yarn, and there are several different thicknesses that you're going to come across in your knitting journey. The main ones are lace, DK, Aran, chunky and super chunky. I recommend to begin with that you start off with chunky and super chunky, as this is going to work up super fast and it's going to be a lot easier to see your stitches. And that's another thing that you want to take into account, being able to see your stitches. It is going to be a lot harder to count and work out what you're doing if you're using a darker yarn. So best to avoid black, navy or brown, and try to go with something as light as possible. Another thing that you need to know when you're working with yarn is how to read the back of the label. The label is going to tell you several bits of information, but at this stage, the main thing that I want you to focus on is needle size, which leads us nicely on to the second thing that you'll need, which is needles. And the size needles that you will need will mostly depend on the yarn thickness. And if you plan on using either the chunky or super chunky as I've suggested, then anything between an 8mm or 10mm needle size is going to be perfect. I have a pair of 8mm straight needles here, and these are exactly what you're going to need when you're starting out. You can pick these up quite readily at most arts and crafts stores, or I would recommend buying these second hand if at all possible. I went to several different charity shops along my high street and found a really large collection of these, and they were only about £1, which is not that bad. I would avoid spending a lot of money on straight needles. They are fantastic for learning on, but as you progress in your journey, you will want to get better needles, and it's worth just kind of testing the waters with these first before spending a lot of money on them at this stage. So now we've covered needles, the last few things that you're going to need is a darning needle and a pair of scissors. Now you can pick up a darning needle from most arts and crafts stores. It's just a sewing needle with a very large eyelet, which makes it perfect for yarn and just weaving in ends. Pair of scissors doesn't need to be anything fancy. It can just be anything that you have in your kitchen drawers, even a pair of nail scissors. Just use what you've got. I invested in a lovely pair of bird scissors, which are very cute, but if you don't have them, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. Just use what you have. The last thing that you're going to need is some kind of device, maybe like a notes app on your phone, or just a simple notepad, just to note down how many rows you've done, maybe something that you've learned. It's just useful to have on hand. And that is all that you're going to need. So let's discuss how we can have a positive strategy towards learning how to knit. Now, in the beginning, learning anything is not easy. It is hard and oftentimes very stressful, and everything that you've been led to believe that knitting would not be. But you just need to be patient with yourself and stop expecting perfection from yourself all the time. At the end of the day, it is just string. It doesn't really matter. And that's why I want you to avoid any projects or patterns at this early stage, and I want you to prioritize making learning your goal. And the best way to learn is to practice by making little tiny swatches. And in those swatches, I think the main techniques that you will need to learn are casting on, knit stitch, purl stitch, and casting off. And you can choose to cut your yarn and weaving those ends, or you can leave it open and just pull it all apart and start again. There is absolutely no pressure to make anything at this stage. You are just learning. I know a lot of people will start off with making a scarf, and whilst that is really good for practicing the repetitive motion of knitting, they are notoriously boring. And unless you're motivated to make a scarf, then why are you making one? I know from my experience, I was never interested in scarves. I really wanted to make beautiful jumpers. And so if I'd kicked off with that as my first project, it would have killed any early excitement that I had. And yeah, you don't have to start off with them. You can work with a lot of beginner-friendly sweater patterns. They are out there. They will include a little bit of sewing, but YouTube is your friend, and there will be so many tutorial videos out there available for you. Your first project may not look pretty, but you will be so proud of it. And that's one thing that I want you to consider, is that I know from my experience, whilst it is lovely to have a beautiful finished object that I have made in my wardrobe or a blanket on my sofa, the main thing that I took away from knitting was the experience. It was the mistakes. It was the frustrated anger where I wanted to throw it in the bin and start all over again. It was the chill moments in front of the TV, relaxing. It was all those memories that I built up while working on that project that has led me to be proud of it. It was the experience of knitting that keeps me coming back and wanting to cast on more, not the finished item. And if you focus on the finished item being your goal, I think you're destined to fail. It's the enjoyment that's going to keep you coming back, in my opinion. But let me know what you think. If you have any tips for any beginner knitter out there, then please leave them down below in the comments. It would be lovely if we could help and share one another. At these early stages, it's really important to have a little community and feel like you can be open and honest when you're struggling with things at times, and don't feel shy to reach out if you have any questions. It was lovely sitting here chatting to you, and I hope you come back soon. Take care, pals.